All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Speakeasy JS, the JavaScript meetup for mad science and experiments and hacks. So just want to say hi to everybody. I'm joined by Darcy today. Hey, Darcy. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Pretty good. So we actually talked last week after the talk about Lava Moat, and I figured that Darcy would be a good person to have on to share stuff about NPM 7 with us. So NPM 7 just came out, and it's pretty cool and exciting. And there's a lot of cool stuff that we're going to hear about today from Darcy. So for everybody who's doing mad science and building stuff in JavaScript, we use NPM to power all of our hacks and all of our projects. And so it's good to look once in a while at NPM itself and see what actually changed and how it's going to make our lives easier. So yeah, I'm excited to hear from Darcy. So do you want to go ahead and take it on?
Yeah. Is my
you look a little bit frozen.
Okay, one sec.
Yeah, why don't you, while you're figuring that, actually, I'll just do an intro about you. I forgot to mention that. So Darcy works on NPM JS at GitHub. He works on the CLI, and he's also the open source software engineering manager. So kind of like the person I always see at the NPM meetings, coordinating like sort of all the topics that are gonna be discussed at the NPM monthly meetings, and so that's pretty cool. And Darcy's also part of the OpenJS Foundation and contributes to Node.js. And I also know that he's a a Node School Toronto organizer, which is pretty cool. Back when we did in-person Node School events, and it looks like Darcy's video is working now. So with that intro out of the way, you can go for it now.
Cool, awesome, and hopefully folks can see my slide deck. Apologize about that. Yeah, so my name's Darcy Clarke, and I'm the senior or engineering manager for the NPM CLI at GitHub. Joined NPM about 1.5 years ago, and you can find out more about me at my website or on Twitter, and I have some more links at the end of this talk as well. Yeah, so I want to start out this conversation a bit about sort of what the NPM CLI is. And for folks that may not know or may not know the scope of essentially this tool and what it supports, there's a number of different domains that the NPM CLI sort of takes on and tries to help you do a number of things, including discover new packages, install and distribute your own packages, to help you test, automate, and maintain your packages. So it's a pretty wide scope, and we have a pretty small team that helps maintain this project, but we love what we do, and we think it's pretty important, and hopefully folks are excited about the work we've been doing. So I want to quickly also talk a bit about the team that we have today. So the folks that you see here are essentially the NPM CLI team. Roy, Nilf, and Gar all report into me. We're all fairly new compared to Isaac, who's also has been working on this for over a decade. So a pretty small team, but we're very happy with what we do. We have a whole bunch of stakeholders inside and outside of GitHub and NPM, including the open source community. And we obviously care deeply about what you think about the work we're doing, and we consider you to be the most important stakeholder. So what has changed? In NPM 7, we made a lot of changes. We essentially gutted a lot of the code that was there. There's still some cobwebs. There's still some things that are hanging out that we would love to improve. But essentially, this is sort of the laundry list of things that I thought were most important, and I thought I'd share with folks today. Ideally, these are all improvements, and we can talk a little bit about each one as I go along here. So if we were on Jeopardy, I think this would be a relevant question. NPM v7, it installs these by default. What is that? It is peerDependencies. So this is probably the biggest change for folks in v7. This is the biggest breaking change, at least. And this is something that we really think is important to help sort of clean up the ecosystem. And really, as a package manager, we want to help you manage those types of dependencies. We want to help you essentially manage all your dependencies. Funny funny, I guess, anecdote. Alex Trebek actually went to my high school, which was kind of cool, a long time ago. So so just in case you want to know, there used to be like a cool little photo of him in the hallways that I used to pass by all the time. So peer dependencies, if you've ever defined a peer dependency in your project, this change for you might be breaking, might not. You might start to see some issues. And so what do peer dependencies look like? Well, here I've defined a couple A and B as sort of these local dependencies. And within those, I've got, let's say, conflicting transitive dependencies. So here, A actually has a dependency on React greater than, or essentially React 17, and B, my dependency B, has actually a peer dependency on React 16. So as of NPM 7, you're going to see conflicts, essentially like e-resolve conflicts, if we cannot resolve these two peer dependencies. And historically, the community has been managing these by themselves manually. And so we're doing our best essentially to try to clean this situation up. And if we can, we will resolve these without warning, without any warning. So this is, ideally, this is a case that not a lot of folks are finding themselves in. But this is definitely, we're trying to mitigate as many of the sort of edge cases here, but you may or may not start to see these types of errors if you've been using peer dependencies a lot in your projects. We also, sort of the driving force behind these resolutions, and sort of when I say we really gutted the NPM CLI and really made a lot of changes for V7, a lot of the sort of tree and resolution logic has gone into a new dependency that we have and that we're maintaining called Arborist. So if you're looking for sort of the logic behind, NPM's dependency resolution, you're going to find it in Arborist. So sort of next up, the big change that a lot of folks have been asking from us for a long time has been essentially monorepo support or workspace support. Today, we essentially have a baseline or sort of the foundations for workspace support. We're improving this experience today. Right now, we can install your dependencies if you have workspaces defined, but we can't really do anything beyond that today. We're hoping to improve that come in the couple months to come. And then there's also new explain command. So this actually goes sort of hand in hand with the peer dependencies resolutions. Like this is really important for people to figure out why they essentially have a dependency, where it's come from. A lot of people have used npm ls in the past to sort of figure out what dependencies they have, but they didn't really know, why is this thing installed? Why is this, transitive dependency installed? So running npm explain now will actually show you why something was installed. And this is really this is a very nice developer experience improvement for sure. And essentially npm-y is an alias to npm explain. We've also made some improvements to npm exec in v7. npm exec is actually a new command, which is essentially just like npx is. There's a few changes under the hood there, but these two things essentially operate the same. So npx, you can also use npm exec and get almost the exact same behavior. We did make a couple changes, again, to npx. We've made essentially sort of like a quality of life improvement, we think here, where if you don't have a package, and before you go and download something from the internet, we're actually going to ask you if you're okay with us doing that. So you can pass through a flag, and in non-TTY environments, we will actually prompt you to see if you actually want to download this package. So in this case, you can see that I'm trying to run create React app. Without the flag -y, it's not actually going to run go and install this package before I actually say yes, like please go do that, which is sort of it's a nice guard for folks. We've heard a lot of people saying that they want improved security when they're using npm, and this is one example of us trying to do that. We've made some improvements also to npm audit. Primarily, these are visual improvements. So in the past, we had sort of this table layout style for showing vulnerabilities and the information that was being passed back from the audit endpoints. And on the right-hand side, you can see things have been cleaned up and tightened up, and it's a little bit easier to actually grep what versions are affected by these vulnerabilities, and try to figure out where exactly, like, who's essentially to blame for these audit warnings. npm fund, this is actually didn't come in v7, but I want to bring it up because I know Ferris has done quite a bit of work in this space, did the funding project, and really pushed us to introduce this. This landed, I believe, in 6.13. But it's something that we still would love people to use more. We've changed and updated essentially the npm install output to highlight when open source maintainers are looking for support, and they can define essentially a funding field in the package.json. And we want to improve this over time, make this better, and make this a great experience for folks. Again, you can run the npm fund command. Find packages in your dependencies that have listed this information, and then go find and actually go help fund them. A brand new command we actually just shipped in, I believe, 7.4 was kicked off by Roy Adorno. It's npm diff. Works very similar to get diff, except, and this is like what we think to be like a huge win in terms of sort of really grokking the differences between packages. And this can really help in terms of trying to figure out what exactly has changed over time between one package and another. And we think that the ergonomics and the developer experience here is actually really nice. So you can essentially define the package you're looking to, that you may have downloaded locally, and then go check against a version that you haven't installed yet, and go define a file or define something there, and see what the actual diff is between what you have and what you're about to install. You can read more on dev.to/Roy Adorno. He's written a bunch of blog posts about the work we're doing. Just wanted to give a big shout out to him. And the other big thing that sort of came in v7 was changes to the package lock. So we essentially now have a v2 of this schema, and between v1 and v2, we've essentially just changed and sort of nested the packages, and the way that they look in the v2 files is a bit different. We've tried to do our best to essentially make the upgrade path seamless, so nobody should really even notice that they go from a v1 to v2 package lock if they just run npm install once they've upgraded. So this we're pretty proud that this experience should be sort of seamless. The upgrade path should be seamless, and yeah, we're excited about the potential this unlocks for us. We've also made huge performance improvements. We actually created a new sort of benchmarks tool based on the PNPM JavaScript benchmarks sort of graphing. We took some of their graphing tools, but then rewrote a bunch of the underlying benchmarks. It looks like I have a typo there, but we have essentially a new repo where you can go and run benchmarks to test us against other package managers, test us against ourselves. And we've actually noticed that we made significant improvements between v6 and v7, primarily in the areas of no lock, no cache, no clean. And so this is interesting sort of performance data This is definitely something we're looking to track more in the future. And we have a whole bunch of fixtures, a whole bunch of benchmarks in that repo. So feel free to go check it out and play with it. And yeah, so if you're looking to essentially get all this magic, it's pretty easy. You can install the latest NPM by running npm I, npm g. We're cutting weekly releases, which is pretty amazing. We just cut one today, so 7.5.4 is the latest npm 7. And yeah, I want to also give some insight for folks on essentially what's coming next. We have a roadmap that looks, it's not complete, but this quarter, essentially, we're looking to flush out the workspace commands and make improvements there to the workspace experience that we have today, which I sort of alluded to before. In Q2, we're actually looking to hopefully introduce the registry protocol, and we're speccing that out right now in the RFC forums. We're also looking to introduce package overrides, which is very similar to YARN resolutions. We also have a previous RFC we've accepted to introduce publish prompts, which ideally we could make configurable and really help folks ensure that they don't ever have to unpublish something and they confirm that everything looks good before they push things up. Scoped installs, and then the big sort of ticket item that we'd really love to get to this year is sort of configurable reification and strategies and modes, which is, sort of in the concept phase right now, but we're doing quite a bit of work and working with some partners in M365, Microsoft partners, and sort of looking at the work that the PNPM team did there and seeing if we can adopt some of that. So how can you get involved with the project? We run, I think as Farrell said, a actually weekly call, RFC call on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we actually discuss features and work that's in flight with the community. We stream live on YouTube. And you can actually provide your feedback or provide sort of ideas for future work we should do there, and we talk about it. And yeah, you can also check out our docs or find the calendar for that event. Also see the status of the registry and other things at npm.community. This is essentially the hub for all links that and all sort of material for npm. And yeah, we're also looking to hire. So our team is growing and would love, if folks were interested to come join us. Thanks.
Cool, amazing, Darcy. Thanks for sharing all that with us. That's super cool. So I particularly liked the npm explain command. That's super cool. I always do npm ls to try and figure out why packages are installed, and that's really exciting. Also, it's just cool to see all the different things you guys have been working on wrapped up into one presentation. I personally haven't upgraded to npm 7 yet, so I'm gonna have to do that after this and give it a shot. And see if it works as well as you've described.
It should. If it doesn't, we'll fix it. We're pretty on top of the issues right now, and we're really excited to get the feedback that we have. And yeah, we've heard a lot of positive things so far. And yeah, if you run into any issue, feel free to poke the entire team and yeah, file an issue, and we'll try to get on it ASAP. Nice.
Yeah, it's great. Let me see if we have if we can pull up the live chat here on the side and see if there's any questions from the audience. So if anyone who's watching the live stream wants to post their questions, it'll show up here on the stream, and we'll go for it and ask it. But in the meantime, I was going to ask you about the peerDependencies decision. So from my memory, hopefully my memory is correct, but I seem to remember there was a time when peerDependencies weren't installed by default, and then they were installed by default, and then they weren't, and then now they are, or like there's definitely like some back and forths in different major versions of npm, but I don't remember all the reasons why, and why it was added and why it was removed. is there like a good explanation for like what happened there, and or like why this is the current sort of best best practice, or what you guys have decided to land on, and like kind of what was the reason why the previous decision was wrong?
So I don't know why well, wait, I can't say I don't know why the previous decision was wrong, but I wasn't around, and for sure the decision to not manage peer dependencies historically was not when I was a part of the team. So that was definitely not, that predates me. I believe, the decision at the time was, predates sort of optional dependencies, I believe, as well. So I think peer dependencies, we were looking for, as a community, probably these escape hatches for us to have for ourselves to essentially, manage steps ourselves, or as we grew. I think we realized, as a community, as we grew, we realized that, managing this type of dep differently than everything else didn't make sense. That's the sort of justification that we have. Like, if we're going to call ourselves a package manager, let's manage all your packages and not just some. And so I think that's, that's why we've made the decision to install them by default and to help you manage them, because we realize there's these conflicts in people's projects, and that the ecosystem has sort of grown accustomed to this, and it's not great as a developer experience. So I don't know exactly, going back, I believe it was NPM 3 or 4 that might have removed support for peer dependencies. I think if what you're referencing, when I look back historically, I think it was NPM 3 or 4 that removed it. And I don't know exactly the justification. I would say that it's potentially, and don't quote me, that we wanted some sort of escape hatch where we said, let's treat these almost like optional dependencies. And I don't know, even at the time, if optional dependencies was a spec or a type of dependency yet. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing something about how like peer dependencies create dependency hell, and that was kind of the reasoning. It was like, because I actually experienced that a little bit when I tried upgrading to NPM 7, and I ran NPM install, and I got this like scary warning about how one of your dependencies deep in your tree is using React 16, and you're depending on React 17, and it seemed like oh well, I guess I can't like make this work, and so. I know there's a little command now you can sort of force it to install it anyway, but I think maybe that was the thinking. If I remember correctly, it was something about like not wanting to sort of create a situation where you have dependency hell and you have it's sort of an unresolvable or impossible or invalid kind of setup, and just sort of to just make it work, since that's what people want, is just they want NPM to work. But I kind of understand where you're coming from with the new design too. It's like, well, it was working, but it wasn't really valid. It was like technically an invalid tree or invalid realization, because you had like, one package saying it really needs React 16, and you gave it 17. So it should probably tell you about that conflict there.
Yeah. And we do have those now to force, like we have force, and we have also legacy peer deps as a flag that you can, essentially say, hey, please ignore this warning, or please install anyways and do your best. But we're helping essentially with the way that we're resolving peer dependencies. We're helping actually resolve those conflicts as best as we can, if they're essentially within the spec range. But if you have a conflict, if you, again, like something deep in your tree says, I want 16, and you're saying I want 17, we should bubble that up to you and really highlight that, your project's in a weird state for sure.
Makes sense. So we got a question here from the chat. Are you looking to provide tools for mitigating the new dependency confusion attack? I think that's referring to the article that was going around this week about some security researcher found a bunch of companies were using dependency names which were coming from their internal registries, and those names weren't registered on the public registry, and their tooling somehow, when that name was registered on the public registry, the tooling sort of fetched it from the public registry and then ran this like attacker's code within the company. So yeah, any thoughts on Like, did npm play a role in the design of that issue, or is it, because I can imagine it just being they're running some registry proxy that's doing the wrong thing, right?
You hit the nail on the head for sure. Like I guess the recommendation there, and we've actually just released a blog post. Isaac Schluter, obviously founder and creator of npm and the CLI, wrote a nice blog post essentially around best practices in this space, which we just put up on the GitHub blog. I think it's the changelog blog, which goes into a bit more detail on how we think about this. This isn't anything new. Like we believe that third-party registries probably shouldn't be proxying through, and that to really keep yourself safe, you should use scopes whenever possible and squat on your organization scope. If you're a large organization and expect to be utilizing a third-party registry, and I consider this to be a problem also with misconfiguration, and versus sort of misconfiguration or confusion is potentially the right word. Like you don't know how you got something, or you don't know why you got something, and so we've actually queued up an RFC in the npm CLI repo around the registry protocol, which is, as I sort of noted there, is sort of on our roadmap. This would be to help really identify within your dependencies themselves, and not through the utilization of configuration, which registry you would like to point at and get the package from. So that might help, and we're expecting that that's just one way that you can further sort of try to keep yourself safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I saw that RFC. It's basically like you prefix in your package.json, when you're saying the name of the package, you prefix it with like the registry that you want it to come from. So there's never any confusion about which like registry you actually want your client to fetch that from. Is that the one that you're referring to?
Yeah,
okay,
that's
cool.
exactly it. And it's better. Some folks have misunderstood it to be no different than referencing a tarball, or like directly pointing at something. But the actually really nice thing about the spec, the way it's written today, is that you can actually use like for ranges still with that. So it's a really, I think it strikes the right balance, and sort of moves folks away from relying so heavily on the registry config, which obviously we've seen, if it's not provided, missed, or misconfigured, potentially you can be hitting the default public registry, and if you expect to be getting one thing and you get another, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, do you want to try tackling this question from Alex? It's kind of a long one. When developing, can we read it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. When developing libraries, there sometimes is a need to have an alpha channel. Some teams lean on Verdaccio for this. Any plans to modify versioning and tagging to facilitate alphas for testing in a Semver-friendly way?
Yes. So we've talked about staged packages or staged publishes for over a year now. I remember before npm was acquired by GitHub, we were talking about this. I can tell you that we'll have more to tell in this area later this year. I think from the registry standpoint, this is definitely something that we run into as well, and find that people are either abusing diss tags, or they're, the great thing about the way that the npm registry works today is that it's immutable. It's a mutable registry. So unfortunately it also means that once you publish a version, that version's gone, and even if you unpublish, that version's gone forever. So essentially staging or creating sort of beta releases should get easier very soon. And that's probably all I can say on that.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, I was looking at, so you mentioned the npm diff command. That also sounds really, really useful for going back to the whole like security angle. since that's kind of been a theme also of the last I guess 3 Speakeasy JSs now. I've always wanted to know what's changed between versions before updating, and so it sounds like npm diff will just show you like an actual git. You said it's like a git diff style output of this is like the old version and this is the new version, and literally what like lines of code have changed in the package.
Yeah.
And so does that mean that like that attack where or that problem where people like publish one thing on GitHub and then a different thing on npm is now like it's addressable? You can just sort of look at literally what changed in the code that's published to npm.
That's not quite the same. That's not quite the same. So I think what you're referring to there is like more so like the integrity of the code that you're getting might be different. Like there's no.
So what I mean is like
yeah,
you can put like one thing on GitHub and a different thing on npm, right? And so what you really want to do when you're updating is look at what's changed on the npm version. Isn't that what it would help with?
It will just look at essentially the npm registry. So
right, exactly.
So visibility into the actual package, that's right. It still doesn't, I think, address what you're referring to, which is also confusing for the end user, where they go to the GitHub website and they'll see contents that might actually be different than obviously that are in the registry. So you would then have to probably check out that Git repo and then do that comparison. It's not doing, So where we can actually provide a better experience is through, aligning npm closer with GitHub, which is, as now being a part of GitHub, we can actually do that. And I can say that that's going to get better towards the end of this year.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, I just mean if you just start using npm diff instead of like relying on the GitHub or on the Git repos history, then you really are getting the source of truth about what's getting into your application. So if you just,
you're right.
I mean, that's at least something. It's a lot easier than like unpacking the tarball and like, doing that yourself and like trying to.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
That's cool. Cool. There's another question here. Is there a way to enforce a compliance validation test prior to publishing, or is the burden here on the users? I don't know what they mean by a compliance or validation test. Do you know what they might be referring to?
So, I mean, I mentioned that we're looking at publish prompts and not even ideating on them. We have an accepted RFC, so the work just needs to get done. So we know how we want to solve that. And I can imagine that we've had discussions about making those configurable. So this sounds like, a pre-publish or prepare script that would run to essentially block or potentially validate, your code before you actually go and publish it. Publish prompts, we want to be configurable. So they're essentially validation or a check that you can be running. We have to update our docs, I think, around lifecycle scripts in general today. We've done quite a bit of a cleanup to our docs if you look at them lately, and they're only going to get better. But yeah, there's still some improvements to be made and some clarity to be made around lifecycle scripts, specifically pre-publish and prepare scripts, which I think would help with the compliance and validation enforcement.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I think that's probably good for now. I appreciate you coming and sharing that with us. It's cool to see what you guys are working on. Is there anything you could tell us about any like future plans or anything, like give us little hints about what might be coming down the pipe before we go?
I mean, I've said quite a bit about look forward to the end of this year. GitHub's going to have a couple big events that you should tune into that we'll be a part of. We're really trying to make it easier to publish and consume packages, and we're trying to make it safer to publish and consume packages. So the little tidbit I guess I'll say there is, we're trying to make the experience that you have today on GitHub great. And then, continue to support and make better, the NPM registry as well. So those two things are both true, and yeah, there's some exciting stuff that we're working on right now that will come to fruition.
Super cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Darcy. Really appreciate you coming and sharing all that stuff about NPM 7 with us.